Hello and welcome back to I Have No Idea What I'm Doing. The last episode was super long. It was like an hour long. I vowed previously not to do hour-long episodes, but we'd been away for a while and there was a lot to do, and it happens sometimes. Luckily, this episode is a lot shorter. It's one of them rare ones where everything just seems to go right. This episode was originally all about testing. I installed code coverage, and I started going through the tests and seeing, where we could pick things up, what could be better, and starting to look at action testing and a little bit of Firebase mocking. Unfortunately, I really didn't know what I was doing with that one, and I was looking at it for a good few hours and pretty much got nowhere, and nobody wants to see that. So this episode is going to be a little bit more lighthearted. We are going to start extending on the auth stuff that we did in the previous episode and start allowing multiple players, so each player has their own hand that only they can modify. This episode is a great example of how decoupling your code might take a little bit longer in the short term, but can actually save you a lot of time in the long run. Also in the last episode, there was a lot of keyboard noise. That is because I bought a mechanical keyboard and didn't realise quite how loud it was. It's pretty loud. I've tried several things to dampen it. The only one that seems to work was putting a towel over the keyboard. It's nowhere near as loud. Problem is, I can't actually see the keyboard, and I also can't touch type, so I have no idea what I'm typing, and that's not quite the title of this show. So this towel is coming off, and you're just going to have to deal with the keyboard noise, I'm afraid. This is the 13th episode in the series. If you want to see the older ones, here's your playlist up here. If you want to see the future ones, please hit subscribe. I really would appreciate it. These episodes come out on the 2nd and the 4th Thursday of every month, so it's about once a fortnight. And on the 3rd Thursday of every month, we also release a video from our latest meetup. I'll put the latest one up there, actually. It's quite a good one. That was a very long intro. Let's get into the code now. Okay, so where were we before? We have put in some authentication, which you can see is up here, and it's really, really pretty. It's not, it's fine. Let's not worry about that for now. We have got the authentication in place so that if we're signed in as Frontend NE, we can start moving all the cards about. If we're not signed in as Frontend NE, we can't. What we also have is, oh, that was fun. Because we're using Firebase, we can talk over the internet and everything is updated in real time. So we've got another window here logged in as Frontend NE, and we can move cards and it updates in real time to, this is another browser, this is Firefox, logged in as a different person, and it's seeing all the same updates that Frontend NE is making in real time. Because we are not logged in as Frontend NE on this one though, we can't actually make any changes. And we're also seeing Frontend NE's hand. So that's what we're going to change today. We're going to make it so that when you are logged in, you see your hand and no one else's hand. You can still see the deck, you can still see the play area as you would in any other game of cards, but you will only be able to see your hand, and you will only be able to deal cards to your hand and from your hand. No one else can touch your hand, basically, or see it, or whatever, as would happen in a regular game of cards. So, where to start? I guess what we want to do, let's have a look at how our hand is created. So if I go into playArea.view, not playArea, what do we call it? It is our test screen, isn't it? Yes, so you can see we have hard-coded player ID equals 1, which is not what we want. We want this to be the UID of the logged in user or something similar. So if you watch the previous episode back, we talked a little bit about UIDs and how only the Frontend NE UID can access and change the data. We want to send that UID to the hand so that we can say, only get me the cards for that particular player. Right, so we need a way of getting this UID into here. And we also need several different hands, one for each player with each UID. It's going to get a little bit weird if we start dealing cards into a player's hand and then that player disappears. They kind of take the cards with them, so we'll not worry about that too much for now. We'll just get this bit working. Okay, so the easiest way to test this is I am going to very quickly, let's find out with the Vue DevTools, oh that's a bit wide, come back. Vue DevTools, let's find out what our user ID is. There it is. So I'm just going to hardcode that user ID for now, and we should get no hand at all. And that's because that user ID doesn't currently have a hand. So if I very quickly log into Firebase, ba-boom. Now, as you can see, we've got the deck, we've got the player, and we've got player_1, which has all these cards in. And what we want really, instead of player_1, we want player_, or however you pronounce that. Now, we could just download this and edit this name and then upload the JSON again, but I can't be bothered with that. So what I'm going to do is hardcode that back to player_1, and I am just going to start moving all of the cards out of player_1's hand and into the deck. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Now if we look in here, player_1's disappeared. Oh, and the play area has also disappeared. And we can change that back to and in theory, we may have hardcoded. We've hardcoded player_1 somewhere else as well. So let me just retrieve that card. Where else have we hardcoded player_1? Is it in the deck? Yes, the destination is set to player_1. So that's somewhere else where we need to pull in this, which should be fairly easy once I've just built the hand. So there we go. If I do that, we can now see we have player_, and then this is our UID. Okay, so what we want to do now is, instead of hard coding 63, is we want to pull that in from somewhere dynamically. And where have we got that dynamically? We have that in our auth module. So in almost exactly the same way that we do in auth, here to pull in user.displayName, we want to pull in user.uid. So if we come back to the app, we'll see we're pulling it in here in auth, and that's great. We just want to do exactly the same thing in here. Now, thinking about it, it's not very secure passing the player ID as a prop. So let's remove that, because the hand will always be your hand, so we don't need to pass it down as a prop. So we can get rid of that player ID prop there. And in computed, we can also, how do we do it? Map getters. Oh, thank you VS Code. How does that look actually? How do we write that? User and logged in. I just want user. Is it like that? Is it like that? Yeah. Okay, map getters user. And now in theory, that's not this dot props anymore. That should just be player ID. And that should just be player ID. And we have issues. I was kind of expecting that player ID is not defined. Is it this dot? Oh, yeah, of course, this.player ID isn't a thing. It's this.user.uid and this.user.uid. Hey! We're getting it dynamically now. So, in theory, we are, yep, everything is working. And if we go back to this screen, yeah, there we are. So we've got Frontend and E logged in here. There's something not right with my login component, my auth component. What did I change? Oh, that's why. Right. So we are logged in as Frontend and E here, and we have got Frontend and E's hand. We are logged in as Sam Beckham, and we are actually displaying Sam Beckham's hand, but there's nothing in it, and we can't actually add to it because we have that rule set. So I'm going to update that rule ever so slightly. First, actually, if I just set that to true for all, so we can test everything's working properly. Yeah, I'm aware of that, that's fine. Oh, right, okay, got it. So what we've done here is we've still got this UID hard-coded. So this player is now drawing cards into this player's hand. We want to avoid that, and we will with rules in just a moment. But first, what we want to do is, in, where was it? Deck. There we go. We want to do exactly the same thing here, and we want to say player underscore. Actually, these want to be backticks. Player underscore user.uid, and we also want to do map getters in here as well. Map getters. User. Just like that. See if that works. Oh, we're getting issues. Let's see what user is not defined. Oh, sorry. This dot. I need Daniel Schiffman's this dot dance. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll check out Daniel Schiffman on YouTube. He's brilliant. Right, we have a deck. We have Frontend and on the left, and we have Sam Beckham on the right. Now, Sam Beckham draws a card. You can see it being drawn on Frontend, but it goes to nowhere. That's because it's being drawn into Sam Beckham's hand. And same with Frontend. If we draw a card from there, it goes into our hand, and it gets updated on Sam Beckham's screen as well. And then we can put it in the play area. You see, it's the right card. And the same with this one. Comes in, and then if they go back to the deck, they go back to everyone's deck. And this is exactly what we want. Now, to safeguard ourselves a little bit, if we need to change these rules ever so slightly. Now, I can't exactly remember what we were supposed to change it to, so I'm going to go away, figure it out, and then explain it to you, because Firebase rules are weird. So these rules weren't quite what I thought they would be. I thought it would be as simple as checking the collection and seeing if the user IDs match. But the way I've structured the data means that I first have to check if it's the deck or if it's the play area, and then check if the user IDs match. So all this does here is says, so you see we're in collections data. We can change this or this or this or whatever if it passes these rules being, if it's called deck, then anyone can change it. If it's called play area, then anyone can change it. Or if it's equal to the user ID of the current logged in user, then you can change it. So Frontend user ID is 63. So Frontend can change Frontend hand, but nobody else can. And it's as simple as that. It's not the most robust way of doing it, but it's a quick and easy win, really. For an example card game to help us learn Vue, it's more than fine. So yeah, it works largely the same. It's just a little bit more secure. We can draw from the hand. We can draw into our draw from the deck. We can draw into our own hands, and we can place cards in the play area. And all that was done using pre-existing stores and components. But this really shows how the decoupling is a good thing. If we had put all of the auth logic inside this auth component, it would have been a complete nightmare getting that user ID into the deck component and the hand component and all that other stuff. So by having an auth store and an auth component completely separate, we can just pull the data wherever we want in whichever components we need. Okay, so I wanted to go offline and see what would happen if a user disconnected and started moving cards about, whether we'd get duplications or lost cards or just weirdly out of sync data, or I don't know, or if maybe Firebase is smart enough to keep them changes and sync them. So the easiest way for me to test it, I opened up DevTools and I force disconnected from the network using this little offline thing here. Now, as far as my browser is concerned, I am offline, which is great. But the thing is, I'm not, because if I start moving cards, you can't actually see my hand because the DevTools there. But it works as before. And if I start moving them from here, you can see they're being moved and putting them in there, and exactly the same with these. Like it's behaving in exactly the same way. Now this window is still online. This window is offline. And this window is completely offline. So if I go to like google.com, there is no internet connection. If I go back, everything still works, but I'm still offline. I don't understand. I really don't understand. I'm assuming it's because of it's on my local network, maybe. Don't know. It just seems completely balmy to me. There's no service workers or anything weird. You can see my local host thing is failing, but everything's still working. It's so weird. If anyone knows what's going on, please let me know. Okay, so to quickly recap, we now have multiple players. Frontend NE can draw cards in Frontend NE's hand, and it's updated on this separate browser that's logged in as a separate user who has their own separate hand that they can also draw cards to. And Frontend NE has no idea what's in Sam Beckham's hand, and Sam Beckham has no idea what's in Frontend NE's hand. There's probably somewhere that you can look at somebody else's hand by changing some values, but that's fine. Let's just pretend that's not a thing and be completely distracted by these synchronized animations. Just remember, I have no idea